Plenty of reasons to cheer for the British crowd as Silverstone saw Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton topping out FP2 and FP1 respectively. And after so much drama coming into the race weekend with George Russell and Max Verstappen and where they're going to be driving next year, it wasn't Mercedes and it wasn't Red Bull at the top. It was Ferrari and McLaren. Tim Kraaij, it's been a busy day. It looked like it was packed in the grandstands with the British crowds packing into Silverstone for Friday. Let's focus on the teams that weren't at the front. We finally had the chance to hear from Christian Horner about the Max Verstappen rumours of his future.
Yeah, Christian Horner is always one hell of a man in terms of avoiding questions and making sure that he gives nothing away that he shouldn't give away. So yeah, the press conference was more a matter of listening to what he didn't say than what he said, because he opened with a joke about him wanting to replace Max Verstappen with Oscar Piastri, with Zach Brown sitting beside him, which got him some laughs, of course. But yeah, the press conference went on, and he got more questions about it. And I think I just read back the transcript as well, and looking at the last comment, I think that was quite telling. There he was going back to the moment that Sebastian Vettel left the team, and that he spoke back then with Dietrich Mateschitz, who said back in 2014 that they didn't need the best driver if they didn't have the best car. And that F1 moves in cycles, and that they had a good cycle, so closing off the last cycle that they had, and that they're now trying to build something new. They have a new powertrain coming up, their own powertrain, everything within the new factory. And he didn't say it. And of course, they still want Max in that team. But it's quite telling, because after that, he also said it would be quite embarrassing for Mercedes and other factory teams if Red Bull would be able to beat all those factory teams with a new powertrain. So looking at that, maybe that is the silent message to Max Verstappen and to everyone, that maybe they won't be that competitive in 2026, or maybe competitive, but not the best ones out there. And that maybe it's more of a longer term project, building a new team, building a new successful team. And of course, they want Max to be part of that. But the question is, does Max wants to be part of that? Because he wants to win. He wants to win now, next year as well. And can Red Bull deliver on that? That's the big question at the moment.
Question for this weekend as well, because it doesn't look like Red Bull have the pace. I know you usually get a chance to speak to Dr. Helmut Marko going into the Saturday and Sunday after the Friday sessions. What is Dr. Marko's thoughts on Red Bull's chances, and is it just going to be Ferrari and probably McLaren at the top at Silverstone?
No, Helmut was quite optimistic, I have to say. It differs on what type of variation of Helmut you get on Fridays, but he was quite optimistic on the pace of Red Bull racing. There had one big problem, and that was the understeer, both in the single lap but also in the long run pace. So that is something that they need to figure out. The biggest problem was Sector 2. You could see that in times in the single lap and the long run pace as well. And he was talking about two corners where they had massive understeer, which made that they had a big loss compared to the McLarens and especially Lando Norris. But Marko was quite optimistic that they could bridge that gap up till Saturday and Sunday for the race as well, if they could manage to find a better balance for the car so that it would be able to redirect that understeer and not make the car so horrible to drive like we saw in FP1 and at some moments in FP2 as well, for especially Yuki Tsunoda, of course, but also Max Verstappen to some extent. So they need to improve on the balance. But it didn't look that bad, according to Helmut Marko. With Ferrari looked very good. In FP1, Lewis Hamilton topped the timesheets. And in FP2, both Ferraris were there as well. So they look good. But according to Helmut Marko, Ferrari is not really there, because in the long run pace, they seem to drop off quite quickly and seem to struggle a lot with graining, where Red Bull didn't have that much issues with graining of the tires, and same for McLaren. So if they can bridge the gap, make sure the understeer goes away, there is a chance that Max Verstappen fights here for pole position tomorrow, but we'll see about that tomorrow.
I think like last year, we've got 3 teams fighting for the win. I'll be a delighted guy. Just to put you on the spot a little bit, Tim, Dr. Marko had one of his proteges coming up again. We saw Arvid Lindblad taking Yuki Tsunoda's seat in FP1. Did Dr. Marko say anything about the British drivers' performance on home soil? He had such a good pass there, winning last year.
Very happy with his performance in F1, and about his comments from within the car on the board radio and his feedback. They were quite happy with that. He was a little bit critical about his performance in F2, so wasn't pleased with that. And that's, of course, a major talking point this season if Lindblad is able to win that F2 championship. And for sure, and done doing a better job today in the qualifying for both the sprint race and the race on Sunday, of course. But he did a good job in FP1, was reasonably close to Max Verstappen. So yeah, he is the big talent of Red Bull Racing. Christian Horner was very pleasing about him in the press conference as well. Very happy with the talent that they have in their Red Bull pool at the moment. With Yuki, of course, in the Red Bull car at the moment, we needs to prove if he's still worthy of a seat next year. But also with Racing Bulls, with Isaac Hadjar, of course, performing very well, but also Liam Lawson finding a new step to his game in Austria, I hope, and they hope he can improve on that as well in the coming weeks. So they're not displeased with all the drivers that they have in the pool, although Christian said that they're open to other opportunities as well, but that they have not spoken to any other drivers at the moment.
We'll talk about the future, and let's stick on that future because we're going into the unknown, because Mohammed Ben Sulayem is having his presidency under threat. There's Tim Meyer officially launching his bid for the FIA presidency. I've not heard a lot about this so far, Tim. What can you explain to us what's going to happen next?
Yeah, Tim Meyer and his team have been able to keep this quiet for 6 months, as he told us this morning in the press conference, just outside of the circuit, because they weren't allowed here on the track. The track is owned by Formula One management, FOM, for this weekend, of course, and they want to stay neutral in this whole debate, so they didn't want to facilitate a room here on the circuit. So we were in a hotel just outside of the Silverstone track, where he did his presentation. Of course, his plans are about a more professional structure. Integrity was one of the words that was mentioned a lot in the press moment. And of course, it didn't take long for him to also open the attack of Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the current FIA president, of course, famously last year put Tim Meyer out of his job as a FIA steward because of he is the son of founder of McLaren, Teddy Meyer. That was already longer known, as people did, but yeah, last year he was put out of his job as a steward due to conflict of interest. It was not about a revenge, he said to Mohammed Ben Sulayem, but he thinks he can do better. He thinks he can do the same as Mohammed Ben Sulayem does for all the small countries, grassroots racing and stuff like that. He wasn't that critical in terms of what Mohammed Ben Sulayem is doing there. He said, I can do that, but I can do more than that and make sure that the FIA organization is getting more professional. So yeah, we need to see how that develops. It's quite a short time. In December, we have the elections for the FIA presidency. At least we have a contender for Mohammed Ben Sulayem, and of course that is good. I would say that there is at least some choice for the club members of the FIA to choose from, but we'll have to see. Like I said, it's a very short time to convince all those countries. You have to see it like that. All the countries in the world have a vote for the FIA presidency, just like it is for the FIFA in the football industry. It's all the same. So you need to have all those countries behind you. It's not only about F1. It's not if the F1 or the F1 teams are behind it. It's about everything. If the whole world in terms of motorsport is behind this presidency. And Mohammed Ben Sulayem has a lot of support from a lot of club members all over the world. And it will be a very big challenge for Tim Meyer to oppose that in the coming months.
Find out soon. And I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow, because it's been a lot of speculation so far, but qualifying is, of course, tomorrow. And Max Verstappen might be up there. Lewis Hamilton always seems to do well at Silverstone, and McLarens are looking impervious, as they often do. But I've no idea what's going to happen, Tim. I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow when we find out who is on pole position for the British Grand Prix. Thank you for everything you brought to us so far, and thank you for everybody else for watching.